Breakfast at Tiffany's?
Yeah. 60s with, what's her name? Tiffany or whatever, not Tiffany, or the Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it just becomes, in my opinion, even though it's considered to be a really, really good movie, in fact, some people even put it on like a top movie of all time list, yada, yada, yada. It just kind of becomes a very bland, like 60s, like, oh, the main character is like a pretty handsome, tall writer. Mm-hmm. He's supposed to be like down on his luck and out on his first time, out on his own for his first time. But you just get that 1960s sense of like everything's going to be just fine. It's not played up for drama or anything like that, right? Like it's more so about like him falling in love with this girl. It's almost like the way that I would describe it is like a misinterpretation of 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah.
Right? Like it parallels not in themes, but in like misunderstanding the way, solely in the idea of misunderstanding, right? Like, because the book, in my opinion, is way more about like, it starts off and it's Truman Capote basically telling kind of a nonfiction story, right? He's talking about like, he just says like, yeah, I had this crummy little apartment, I hadn't had anything published yet. I didn't have a lot of money, but I loved that place. It was small and it was dirty and it was moist, but it was my place. And I had a little shelf and it was my shelf. And I had books and they were my books. It was my place. And I had a little desk where I do all my writing, And suddenly there's this girl upstairs, Tiffany, and she has sex with older men for money, and she does whatever she wants, and all of her apartment's still packed up, and,
the dream.
She plays guitar, and there's all these things that intoxicate him about him, but not in a romantic sense. It's very platonic. They never cross the threshold of it being romantic, because he's much more, without saying it, it's the Great Gatsby story, without the regret part. It's mainly like the main character Nick's story, right? It's that idea of like, wow, here's this person that embodies all these things I wish I had in my life, right? This sort of like flippant, no roots, able to do whatever I want whenever I want, right? She almost embodies the idea of like city life, right? And, she's gone just as soon as she came, but also much like the Gatsby story, like she's got her own kind of complications. It turns out that actually she was like wed to like this old farmer at like 14 or something like that. And she had like all these kids and she had to raise them, but they weren't hers. They were like from a previous marriage or something like that. And she just ran away one day, to the city and kind of became a model and yada, yada, yada. And he ends up like tracking her down and finding her. And, there's just I wish I had the Wild Brilliance, because there's this really beautiful moment at the end where she does this interesting switch where they're having a conversation. It's like the last time he sees her, and they're like in the back of like a taxi or something like that, and she just kind of breaks down about how she's like, without saying it, because it's never been communicated to her that he admires these things about her, she basically gives like a very, very emotional, like it's not always cracked up to be kind of speech, but it's more so tied to this like metaphor of like this cat that she has, that she actually tries to throw the cat out, but the cat comes back, and something about not having anyone, or maybe having the cat, or caring about the cat, or not caring about the cat. I can't remember. But anyways, what I'm really getting at is that, like, yeah, like I said, the story is the book is a very beautiful story of being naive, being young, right? Yeah, it's like grass is always greener story, right? Like you watch people and you just assume like, wow, they must have it so nice, and you slowly come to the adult understanding of like, no, it's probably a little different than you think, And like I said, the movie just ends up being a very bland, colorful 60s like romantic comedy. She's supposed to be quirky. She's supposed to be like Zooey Deschanel in the movie, right? But in the book, it's a much more realistic, like, no, she's not quirky. She just genuinely is kind of a little broken, like everybody. There are things that are bad about her. She's not, a manic pixie dream girl so much as she's human.
Yeah. I was at work today, and this new guy is working in front of me, and he goes, "Nick, do you speak Spanish at all?" And I went, not a lot, which is a lie. I don't speak any Spanish. And he's like, look at this. And he shows me a slip that has a city name on it. It says Punta Gordoda or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, this means nothing to me. He's like, I'm pretty sure it's like slang, like curse words. I went, yeah. He's like, I'm pretty sure it means fat bitch. And I'm like, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's probably two words that look like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, grass is always greener, and walked away. And I was like, that was maybe the most confusing interaction I've had with a human being. You said grass is always greener, which reminded me of it.
Eating Soup Alone is a podcast hosted by me, Christopher Crumley, and co-hosted by Nicholas Johnson. We try our best to ramble incoherently about a handful of movies at least once a week.
So anyway, we saw Misery.
Did we get my whole Breakfast at Tiffany's rant?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Well, on a side note also,
You're right, we did also see Seven.
yes, that's what I was going to bring up. You're right. Which would you like to discuss first?
Well, probably. I mean, you can go with your aside, whatever you were going to say. It was just...
Nah, it's table talk. We'll talk later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's start with Seven,
Okay.
because I think we have the least to say about it.
Okay.
You weren't blown away by it, and I slept through about half of it. I've seen it a bunch of times before. Not a bunch, like maybe twice before.
Okay.
I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, as a young child, Nicholas was very taken by Fight Club, and was like most 13-year-old boys are. I was like, ooh, I just gotta watch everything else by this guy. I only watched Seven, and I was like, oh fuck, that was so fucked up and dark and one of the best movies I ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point on, I've just been telling everybody all the time, like, oh, Seven, it's one of the greats. You gotta see Seven.
Mm-hmm.
And watching it last night, I was like, this movie's good. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Again, maybe I would have liked more of it if I wasn't asleep.
Yeah.
Like I said, I did. I think I slept through my favorite part from my memory, but I thought this time around what I saw was good.
Yeah. Yeah, the way it struck me was that it was a bit obvious it was his second movie, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like I should say from the get that I liked it.
Yeah.
I think it is good. By no means is it a bad movie. I just think it's a case of like unfulfilled or unrealized potential.
Yeah.
I was just expecting a little bit more, and up until the last second, I was assuming there'd be a little bit more, and there just never really was a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right? So, from the get, we are introduced to Morgan Freeman,
Detective Somerset. Yeah.
Detective Somerset, Detective William Somerset.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Beautiful name. Love him.
It's good.
Yeah. And I think he does a great job. I really like his character.
Morgan Freeman. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's the classic. I'm one day away from retirement cop.
It is.
It's done pretty well.
But I think there's also a little subversion, right? He's this learned cop, right?
Yeah.
He's this scholarly cop who never pulls his gun and stuff, right? And in fact, I like that the more gruff and unrefined, Brad Pitt character. I don't even remember his name. David
Mills.
David Mills. He honestly, there are a lot of traits that do not fit this, but he gives me more of a vibe of like the grizzled detective than Morgan Freeman does.
Okay.
So I think they're both kind of interesting subversions in that way, to a degree, right? Like I said, he's this 34-year-old veteran, right? And yes, he fits into the stereotype of like being a bit over it, being very experienced and knowing exactly what's going on, and being one day from retirement or whatever. But also he's got this kind of like learned thing about him, very soft thing about him, right? And then you've got Brad Pitt. He's new, he's hungry, he's quick, he's brash.
This also
Naive.
feels like David Fincher's second movie. It also feels like Brad Pitt's second movie, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I did not love him.
Yeah. He got on my nerves. But also, I mean, I would also say a mark of a good job to a degree.
No,
right?
I don't even mean so much like, oh, this character's annoying. It just feels like a lot of what Brad Pitt is saying is Brad Pitt reading a sentence off of a piece of paper.
That's fair, but I would say even the character got on my nerves a little bit.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely that. But what I'm driving at is... I think Brad Pitt's a great actor. We talked about this a little bit last night. He is a great character actor who just happens to be so handsome that people make him a leading man. And I don't even think he's so much a leading man in this, but still, I feel like, Brad Pitt as an actor has come a long way since Seven.
Yeah. I'll agree with that. I'll also say I've only ever noticed this with Gone Girl, but something that struck me immediately is for at least the first half of the film, maybe it's perhaps me getting used to it or maybe it gets better going on, both Gone Girl and this movie have a problem with sound mixing.
So quiet.
Where I feel like, the dialogue is so quiet and everything around them is very loud.
Yeah, it's two people having a very soft conversation inside of a car in the middle of a hurricane.
And I would also say I think it's probably a conscious choice David Fincher, like I think he wants that.
I guess.
I would say. I would think it's because of the fact that, what is it, like 15 years later, or 10, 20 years later, whatever, I see it again in Gone Girl, it must be something he wants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, I have no problem with people talking softly, and then the action scenes and stuff are very loud. But like I said, while two people are talking very softly while a lot of heavy rain is falling on a car, I feel like that's detrimental.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm going, what the fuck are they saying? I think it's bad.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not saying it's the right choice, but I'm thinking it seems intentional. And I don't think it has a proper effect. I think it works much better in a movie like Taste of Cherry, which is a movie I want to make you watch.
Yeah.
Subtitled because it's Iranian, so we know what they're saying, but the sound design is such that like it'll be drowned out what the characters are saying sometimes. But that what happens then is that again it's diegetic sound. So the other character will say, "I'm sorry, what?" and they'll repeat the line, and I think that's really neat, and it really does create this sense of realism.
You like that car zooming behind this?
There you go. Yeah. Diegetic sound, baby.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. That sounds cool. It sounds immersive. But
it's really the most important part is the "I'm sorry, repeat that."
Yeah, exactly.
Which you never get here.
Yeah.
Right. So you never actually end up hearing a lot of what they're saying. I think a lot of the times I was listening with perked ears, really trying to, but I got most of it.
Yeah.
So anyways, into the bulk of the film. Obviously, murderer. 7 murders are presumably going to happen.
7 days before Somerset retires.
Before Somerset retires. And 7 deadly sins, right?
Yep.
And there's... it's... provocative is perhaps the word, right? Which does not denote... necessarily quality or substance, just the idea that it provokes you a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Each of these murders are provocative, and they're a bit shocking, and they are interesting, and they're very neat. But like I said, I don't know where the failing happens, but there's a degree to which where I feel like I could connect more to exactly what the killer's motive just motive kind of is, or like his rationale or his thought process. I understand fully that it's kind of that classic No Country for Old Men trope where obviously the murderer views the world as if it's slowly descending more and more into sin and hell, and right, and you kind of get that mirrored a bit with the Morgan Freeman character, who's becoming disgusted by like the apathy that everybody has towards these things, whereas the murderer has more of a problem with the fact that they're even happening. But to get into the Morgan Freeman thing, that was another thing. Again, it comes off a little grumpy old man. Not that he's that grumpy, but just that No Country for Old Men thing, right? Where he's like, I just can't believe the apathy around me. But again, there's a bit of a disconnect. I don't know where like he doesn't go into enough depth with it for it to feel like I can sympathize with his apathy solution or his problem with the idea that apathy is a solution, because it just seems like a no-brainer to me. You have to be a bit apathetic. Everybody can't be walking around all day as an open nerve. It's not really that much of a sin. I feel like at some point the movie had to go a step further with his opinion, right? Like to have something even more poignant to say about the apathy, rather than just apathy bums me out. Do you have anything to say about the 7 murders and the deadly sins?
And
the apathy.
Piggybacking off of what you're saying, it definitely feels like a movie based on a book. Where you got to cut a lot of stuff out because it's a movie, and instead of focusing on that, it focuses more on like, ooh, this is fucked up.
The headline stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's not based on a book.
Interesting, because I was curious. I genuinely was curious.
Yeah. I just looked it up while you were talking. Sorry. And yeah, I think it would be a step above, and I think I probably truly would have really enjoyed it and probably still recommend it to people if it delved a little bit more into that, more into the Somerset versus John Doe, how they're kind of in line but on opposite ends,
Mm-hmm.
and just the whole mission statement, I guess, of both of them, and how Brad Pitt gets caught in the middle. But yeah, I think just the big punch of this movie is, like you said, it's all the headline stuff, which doesn't feel like headline stuff anymore.
Yeah.
It might be. I'm gonna.
I will say it didn't shock me as much as I was expecting.
Yeah,
It was very shocking.
Yes, I feel like I'm gonna sound like No Country for Old Men now, but it's like, yeah, I'm just kind of used to this. I've seen worse movies at this point, so I'm like,
I've seen worse shit in real life.
okay, yeah. I remember the first time seeing it, being like, oh fuck, you mean that guy eat himself to death, or oh fuck, that guy tied to the bed is still alive, or oh fuck, the dick knife. And
The dick knife was probably the most jump the shark thing for me.
Yeah,
Where I was just like, that's insane.
yeah.
That's genuinely insane.
And then
Very 90s.
oh, this movie's so 90s.
Very like Max Payne, over the top,
Yes.
shocking for shock's sake.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when I was watching it at the beginning, just aesthetically, just all the 90s cops. I'm just like, oh, this is so Max Payne.
Especially the Brad Pitt character, I feel
yeah.
like. Yeah.
And then we should watch Max Payne sometime, starring Mark Wahlberg.
Are there not multiples?
No, there's just the one.
There's
movie.
just the one. Because I know Judge Dredd has a couple. The Punisher has a couple.
I remember seeing Max Payne in the theater
Yeah.
with a friend of mine and his dad. His dad really liked the video game.
My dad was also a Max Payne fan.
Max Payne was one of, like, we got our PlayStation 2 when I was a kid, and someone bought my dad some video games for Christmas that he never played. I was maybe 5, 6 years old. It was Metal Gear and Max Payne.
Mm-hmm.
And just years went by, and they just sat on a shelf, and I got, I don't know, like 9, 10 years old. I'm just, you're a kid, and you're just fiending for more video games. I'm like, I'm going to play these, I guess, because we have them. And I just fell in love with them. Max Payne is very cheesy, the video game. It's just very cheesy, hard-boiled detective on the wrong side of the law. But then the video game, the movie starts, one of the main characters was replaced by Ludacris, and then another one is played by the dad from...
King of the Hill.
No, it was like a sitcom on like ABC Family, I think.
Oh, you're talking about Grounded for Life.
Grounded for Life, yes, the dad from Grounded for
Yeah,
Life.
I just ripped that out of my memory. That used to come on after school, and for some reason, I just always put it on.
Oh, same.
Don't know if it was good
same.
or not. Don't remember it.
I just remember him, and the brother from it shows up in everything.
I like the brother.
But the dad from Made Simple Rules is in it, and I'm like, oh fuck, all right. And then the first level of the game happens at Roscoe Street Station. It's a subway. And there's a part in the movie where Max Payne's walking in a subway, and he walks past a sign that says Roscoe Street Station, and I'm like, oh fuck, here we go. This movie's gonna be great. And then it just takes a right turn, and it's just dog shit from what I remember.
Can I derail you for a moment to talk about after-school shows?
Do you want to derail my derailment? Yeah, absolutely.
I loved Cyber Chase.
Cyber Chase.
It was a PBS show.
Oh. Was it like a learning show?
Might have been.
Was there a kid in a wheelchair?
I just know the big bad guy had a green face and like a purple thing, and he had a big chest, a purple like Dracula kind of outfit thing, and there was like a bird thing. It was mechanical. A little redhead kid with a yellow shirt is the main character, and then I think woman, thinking red hat, purple also maybe.
What was the Scooby-Doo thing called?
Oh, Cyber Chase.
Was it Cyber Chase?
I think so.
They were both Cyber Chase? Okay, I'm looking up Cyber Chase. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I would rather watch that and other PBS programming, genuinely. I'm sorry. But for some reason, when I was a kid, I just hated Code Lyoko and Codename Kids Next Door. If those two things were on, I couldn't stand it.
I was going to bring up Code Lyoko.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a couple episodes of Code Lyoko and then listening to a podcast a few years ago about some people being like, hey, Code Lyoko is amazing, and more people need to rewatch it. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to. I listened
ain't
to
me, babe.
half an episode of the podcast. I'm like, I can't even get through this. I'm not watching Code Lyoko. I like Codename Kid Next Door, though. I thought that shit was fun.
There was something about it that just rubbed me the wrong way. You know, like when like just like an animation style will turn you off. Like same thing happens to me for like King of the Hill.
Yeah,
King of the Hill, I'm sure there's something there. Can't ever get over the way it looks.
No, I get that. Absolutely.
Just rubs me the wrong way. Diegetic sound, baby.
Diegetic sound.
What else? Oh, yeah. So then eventually it was Grounded for Life and that 70s show. That was another big one that was always on. Even before school, a lot of the times my mom would work like 6 to 2 kind of like office jobs, or like 9 to 5 or whatever. And, we'd have to get up at like 5, 6 in the morning, and she'd take me to like my great aunt's so I could go to school there, and she could get me off the bus while my mom was still working, kind of like almost like a latchkey type deal. And while we were getting ready, it was early enough. I don't know when it stopped being on TV, but about 5 in the morning, Captain Planet would always be on.
Oh, very cool.
I never really understood or watched a full episode, but I always caught a couple of minutes, and I was like, fuck, so cool. The green mullet and that fucking suit's so cool.
I very distinctly remember getting up before school in preschool. I went to PM classes, so I would watch Caillou, and then when Caillou was over,
I liked Caillou.
I'd go to preschool. I remember like a neighbor asking me like, "Oh, what?" Like their parent being like, What time do you go to school?" And I go, "When Caillou's over." And they're like, "What time does Caillou come on?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And they're like, "Well, what time is Caillou over?" I'm like, "Lady, I am 4, maybe 5. I do not know time."
Yeah. That's very funny. Also, in high school, I'd have to catch the bus, but I'd be able to catch a little bit of, I think it was Full House, but then by the time, like, Saved by the Bell was on, I knew I was late
Yeah,
for the bus or something like that.
that's funny.
Yeah.
I've never really seen Saved by the Bell. I don't think I've seen an episode of Saved by the Bell.
I've seen a couple, because I was really big into, like, the Nick at Night. That's what I would switch to anytime.
Oh, me too. But I don't.
Anytime that, like, Adult Swim had something bad on, that I was like, I'm not really into this.
I don't remember Saved by the Bell ever being.
It might not have
back
been
in
on
the
there.
day.
It could have been ABC Family or something. But I would do that. I would go watch old programming anytime that I was like, oof, not into this.
Oh yeah.
So 7.
Yeah.
Stuff that did work for me. A lot of it is I just like kind of the quiet moments with Morgan Freeman, the tension that builds between those two characters of, David Mills and William Somerset. And yeah, kind of that is what I really like, is the new guy, the old guy is about to retire, right? Just their conflicting personalities, but also the weird ways where they just kind of like overlap in little ways, and they have like a mutual admiration, but for some reason they're doing this will they won't they thing in the beginning that kind of abruptly, in my opinion, I don't like how quick the turn is, like that his wife invites him to dinner, and then from then they're like, all right, guess what? We're best friends.
Yeah.
Happens a little quick, but it also works just fine. Not that mad about it. I will also shout you out. As I told you last night, pretty much called it that the wife was going to be no more, because as we've been watching Scream, you're always able to deduct who the killer is, at least in the sequels, because you're like, haven't seen so and so in about an hour.
Yeah.
And yeah, we watched 7 specifically on a DVD. I've never seen this before, but it had a side A and a side B, and halfway through the fucker, we had to flip it to watch the second half. And she's not in the second half.
You can fit an entire movie on a VHS tape. You can definitely fit it on an optical disc. I don't know why.
Well, that's the other thing. It's only 2 hours. I can understand it. Like The Godfather's on 2 discs.
Yeah,
but it's a 3-hour, or not 2 discs, 2 VHS tapes.
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
a 3-hour movie.
Yeah,
so you have to put a movie here and a movie there, because 90 minutes. 90 minutes times 2 is 3 hours.
Guarantee a 7 on VHS is 1 tape. I don't understand. Yeah. I will say this time around, a character that I found myself liking more and empathizing with and thinking about more is, don't know her name, so it kind of goes in the face of what I just said. The wife.
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Tracy, I think.
Tracy. When he's talking about, it was his idea to come work in this city. She's not happy with it. Then they go to the house. She's like, yeah, sorry, it's a bit of a mess. We're still unpacking. And Brad Pitt's in the other room just rolling around on the floor with the dogs. And she's like, yeah, we were high school sweethearts. I thought he was funny, and I knew I was going to marry him. And Morgan Freeman's like, really? And I'm like, that's rough. And, you can tell she's not super happy here being here. And then they're at dinner, and a train comes by, and their whole apartment starts shaking. And watching that last night, I was like, oh, fuck, poor Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah. Like, this sucks. Like, I really feel for her in this movie. And then Brad Pitt's like, yeah, the realtor could never figure out why. He only showed us the place for 5 minutes at a time. We fell in love with it, and first night here. And Morgan Freeman goes, built-in, very soothing, built-in vibrating house. And there's a beat, and he just starts howling. Morgan Freeman does, and then they all start laughing. I'm like, that was good. That was really good. I really enjoyed that. But also, and I think immediately after, she calls up Morgan Freeman because she has no one to talk to in the city. She's like, I'm pregnant. This place sucks. I don't want to have a fucking baby here.
And then you never see her again. And that's my only complaint. I also agree with you. I love the character. I love the things she's dealing with. I love Gwyneth Paltrow as her. She does a great job. But yeah, I understand it's a 2-hour movie too, so like you don't want to bloat it anymore. So I don't know what was cut, but maybe perhaps there was more with her and it ended up being cut or whatever. But yeah, I feel like it ends up being one of those things where we've got 2 really good scenes with her. The movie ignores her by and large otherwise, and then at the end the twist is, which I actually like, that Kevin Spacey has killed her. And it's one of those things where it's like, yes, good twist, but also I feel like the movie should have invested in her a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, for this to really punch. Because it is an emotional... And I also like his whole twist about turning Brad Pitt into his wrath character and whatnot. And I also think it's appropriate that it ends with him killing Kevin Spacey. That fits in line with his character and all that. And it's...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say before I got distracted by Max Payne and ABC Family and Cyber Chase. Yeah, I think that was the biggest takeaway from seeing it earlier in my life was, oh, this is fucked up. Oh, this is fucked up. Oh, this is fucked up. And then him at the end being like, oop, killed your wife. She's this one, and you're going to kill me, and you're going to be the last one. And being like, oh, fuck. Oh, this guy's playing 3D chess over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, now watching it again, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you would fall asleep at this point, but immediately I was thinking, there's 2 more bodies, and you're going to take 2 detectives out to the middle of nowhere? Sounds like the 2 detectives are going to be the last bodies. So the only thing that was really a twist for me was, again, the idea that he had planned on being one of the bodies.
Yeah.
I did not deduce that. But already I was skeptical because I was like, 2 bodies, 2 cops, 2 bodies, 2 cops. So
how does I was asleep during it? How does that monster Kevin Spacey hold up? Like especially when he's just rambling in the back of the cop seat. Not rambling, but going on a monologue, I guess.
He's riling up Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
He's already starting to play mind games.
Yeah.
To a degree, there's a which where, as you say, he's playing like 3D chess, right? Like he's already trying to get under his skin, so he's gonna be more agitated. So when the bad news comes, he's gonna be even more. He's already trying to, grow that garden, right? The wrath garden.
I had a bad feeling that watching it again, and I didn't. Again, I was asleep. That it would be a little heavy-handed, a little cheesy.
No, I don't think so. The whole time, I thought he was just kind of toying with them again because I didn't necessarily see the wrath thing coming. I think he does a really good job. He's still very subdued in a good way. I think Kevin Smith is a very, very good, subtle actor.
Let's call him Kevin Smith from now on, yeah. Good
Oh,
one.
shit.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey.
No, Kevin Smith.
Side note, apparently real-life monster, but as an on-screen character inside of this film and a couple of other films that I like, he serves his
purpose.
But yeah, I think he plays it very well. Nice and there's Brad Pitt just keeps telling him like sit back and stuff, and he does, and he keeps his face right there, and he just keeps very steady, unwavering, just getting under his skin, fucking with him, and the whole time you can see Morgan Freeman's obviously kind of catching on to like, okay, he's trying to get a rise out of him, what's going on, what's his angle, what's he doing.
It was what started making me think like, ooh, this end might not be great is when they're outside of an apartment for one of the murders, and a photographer comes up and goes, hey, let me get your picture. Chick, 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 chick. That's a camera sign. Chick, 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 chick. And Brad Pitt like blows up at him, and Morgan Freeman's like, you got to keep that tempo under control. And he's like, sorry, I just can't help it sometimes. He's like, you got to help it though. And he's like, I just can't. I'm being like, This feels a little heavy-handed. This feels too much like they're like, hey, remember this. Remember he's a hothead. Remember he makes rash decisions. Remember he blows up sometimes.
Yeah, I was also thinking throughout the film that perhaps Somerset was envy.
Yeah.
He's envious of that other life, that quiet life, that small place where you don't have to be apathetic, right? So again, like I say, it also was a bit of a shock when that happened later on. I will say, ending, I don't mean to be the plot hole guy or anything like that. I'm not saying they're plot holes. But I feel like the helicopter would be making a much bigger deal about that van. And I'd be able to see that van coming from much farther away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm also very curious as to why Morgan Freeman, beelines it all the way over to the van. Again, it seems like something perhaps the helicopter would try to take care of or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, they'd have like a perimeter. Someone would have stopped that van before it got close.
I still think it's, again, going back to like the movie being like, let's allow it some I allow every movie a little bit of plot holes for the sake of like, is it going to be impactful? Is it going to feel good when it happens in the movie? I think it does. Like I said, it just never hits that next level for me.
I don't remember what he says, again, asleep, but whatever Kevin Spacey says to get them to go out to the desert, again, it's just a plot hole thing. I get it for the movie.
The movie tries to acknowledge it a bit. What it is his lawyer says, you'll get a full confession from my client if it specifically has to be Somerset and Mills, but if, you know, he can take them specifically to the last two bodies or whatever. And in the movie, like, everybody in the little room, like the Full Metal Jacket police chief is like, this is madness, this isn't illegal, we can't just do these things, you can't just do that, or whatever. And I think it's Mills or Morgan Freeman that's like, fuck it, all right, let's let it happen, let's go, you know?
Yeah, I feel, plot holey, I think in real life it would be like, oh no.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah,
we do not need a full confession from you.
Yeah.
You have cut off your fingerprints, sir. I think
that's incriminating.
I think you are booked and out of here.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's another thing. I mean, you just sparked that. That's another conversation we kind of lightly had last night where I was talking about, like, I feel like, again, it's provocative and it's kind of shocking, but, like, did he have to go to the fingerprints level? Like, he was already so smart and he's, like, trained and, you know, educated in, like, you know, Spencerian or whatever, Chaucerian fucking, you know, Milton, you know, Lost, Paradise Lost. He's, you know, this smart guy and he's orchestrating these 7 deadly sins and, you know, he's slipping in and out of a lawyer's, you know, fucking office, you know, around, like, the cleaning schedule of when the doors get locked and no one sees him and all this kind of stuff. He's so clever. He's almost a Batman villain, right? And then on top of it, he's doing this other thing to cut off his, you know, fingertips, even though he's orchestrated it in a way where they're going to find the bodies within a 4 or 5 day context. And it just seems like, again, just another, almost like it going too far kind of a thing. Like,
yeah, you think he'd be smart enough to know
wear gloves?
Gloves exist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as soon as you started saying he'd be smart enough, I was like, oh, Nick's thinking, yeah, buy gloves.
Yeah.
So it's shocking for shock's sake, right? Like, it's like, wear gloves, bro.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's also, like, the whole thing where it's like, yeah, I'll cut off my fingerprints and I'll time it so they do this, and then I'm this big, I'm a mastermind. No, they find him in the middle of the movie, and he has to run away in a gun chase.
And then the other thing is, like, another thing the movie just mentions in passing, but then I don't think ends up doing enough with is, again, like that, just that room of over 2,000 notebooks with 250 pages in them, and none of them are dated, and it's like this stream of consciousness, like man's mind, and they're on the shelf in no discernible order, right? That's great, but then the one thing Morgan Freeman reads from it is just is just Kevin Spacey being so disgusted by the banality of a conversation on a train that he throws up on the guy. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, there's not actual substance there. That's just, you know, like a Holden Caulfield level, like, oh, phonies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, you know, when it comes to Catcher in the Rye, there's a little more to read in there because actually there's the subtext of it being alluded to, and actually it's a part of the movie that one of his, like, old teachers tries to make an advance on him, right? So there's this building narrative that I've heard recently about the idea that, like, well, he's displaying traits of what, you know, a child sexual abuse, you know, victim would, how they'd behave, kind of thing. Right? These are textbook. And again, it's just one of those things where, like I say, like, there ends up being, in my opinion, just no deeper context ever for a lot of things, which is fine. Again, it ends up being, in my opinion, you ready? I'm going to say, you know, strong C plus, light B minus.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. You know, again, not a movie I'm mad at, not a movie I hate, you know, decent movie. I gotta feed my cat.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the cat's fed now.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree. It's a solid
7 out of 10. That'd be what a C is, like a 70%. So.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't exactly a miserable experience.
Misery was good. We before we watched 7, we watched Misery, as we said at the top of the show. I'd never seen it before, in the slightest. I think we had both talked about how we had seen the Family Guy episode about it.
Yes, 100%.
That's pretty much it.
And you know, just real quick, I'm gonna say it. I like Family Guy parodies. I like when they do little snippets where they're parodying other stuff. I just enjoy it.
Yeah, I do too.
And I gotta say, watching Misery, I did not go back and watch Family Guy's parody of Misery, but I just thinking back fondly. Perhaps it's a nostalgic thing. I grew up watching Family Guy and stuff like that. It's been years and years and years since I've seen anything related to the show or whatever, but yeah, it's a part of my childhood. I know it's not cool right now, but I look back at it the same way I look back at Foster's Home for the Imaginary Kids or something.
Yeah, for imaginary kids.
Yeah, for imaginary friends.
Yes, Jesus.
But yeah, I spent a lot of time with Family Guy. And, I just kept thinking, I feel like they really captured the vibe of this. I felt very familiar.
Yeah, I was going to let you...
Misery.
I was going to let you sweat. That's why I didn't say anything, but I immediately watched the Family Guy episode.
I wanted to.
It's been a while since I've seen Family Guy. It was fun. Again, just Family Guy. Like you said,
Yeah.
very, very fond memories. Just makes me chuckle.
Just is what it is. I don't think it necessarily deserves to be considered like the Monster energy drink of having taste in television.
Yeah.
But everybody has monsters, bro. Some days
I will
they're
say,
a little sleepy.
biggest surprise watching that was opening up Hulu, going to the page and seeing that there are like 18 seasons of Family Guy or something like that.
Yeah, I guess that should never stopped.
Yeah, I remember watching season like 7 on Hulu when Hulu first started.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, no, this will probably be around season 7. It's not. There's so much Family Guy.
Yeah.
But Misery.
Misery. Based on a Stephen King novella.
Book. Full book.
400 pages, you said, I think.
420 pages. Nice.
Bong.
Bongs. I had a blast with Misery. I thought it was great. I always thought this was like an early 80s movie. I think it's 1990, 1992 maybe. Our boy James Caan from
Elf
and Nothing Else was in this. I like him in this better than I liked him in Elf. That's a joke. He's in Godfather, which we just watched. I don't think I've ever seen Elf.
You will this Christmas season.
We'll see.
We're gonna have to watch some Christmas movies.
Okay. Can we watch Jingle All the Way?
Yeah, that's a given.
Love Jingle All the Way. And fuck, what else was I gonna say about Misery? It was good. I enjoyed it. I thought Kathy Bates killed it. I thought it was very tense in a lot of parts. It's very much so a movie where I'm yelling at the TV.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why?
In and outside of my head. Not in like, oh, that's what you call an act break or something like that. But just like, oh no, dude, why are you doing that? Get back in the chair. Get back in the chair. Just stuff like that.
It's one of those things where I agree with you because James Caan, as we know, just real quick expositionally, gets into a car accident. He's a famous writer. The woman who saves him turns out to be your biggest fan and also crazy. He's broken both his legs. He's bedridden. She's nursing him.
She is a nurse. But
is she nursing him? There's that whole thing with the pills the whole time, but we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, he tries to escape the room a couple of times, and that's what exactly, I know what you mean, because that's one of those things where it's like, yes, I understand, bro. I get it. I would too, but also, stay in the room. Just stay in the room. You're safe in the room. I mean, not that safe, but you're still more safe in the room.
Yeah. I definitely felt like watching it, I was like, okay, bro, I don't know how long you've been here. Your arms have to work. Not to be sexist, but you are a grown man.
Yeah.
This is a woman who's like a foot or two shorter than you. Even if your legs don't work, you can choke this woman to death. And then she just starts stabbing him with needles. And I'm like, no, never mind. She's got you, bro. She's got you.
Yeah, the needles were particularly rough. In general, there ended up being more rough scenes than I thought there would be. Like, it was genuinely rough to watch her fucking hobble him.
Yeah, that's the only thing I know about Misery is that happens, and that seemed to get you out of nowhere. Like,
I was like,
did you not know that?
Nope, didn't know she re-breaks his ankles.
It's the cover of the DVD, and I think all the posters are her holding that sledgehammer. Yeah.
In my mind, I've never paid much attention. I thought it was an axe, maybe. Just haven't really looked at it that intently, I guess.
Oh fuck. Yeah, it was still rough though.
It was rough. They only showed the first one, but it was rough.
Like through the whole movie, like he's writing the book and like things are getting better, and it starts to seem like maybe he's getting out of there. And every like 5-10 minutes, I have to remind myself, like, oh right, she clubs his feet. That's still coming.
On the topic of him writing the book, I also genuinely like that there are a couple of attempts, right, where she comes back and she's like, no. And I mean, she doesn't say this, but she basically says, like, you're not going to half-ass your way out of this. You have to write a book I like to get out of here.
Yeah, that's the thing. She finds him, and he's got his new book that he just wrote. This is the last
got me too.
Last in a series that she loves. The character's name is Misery. And in this book, he killed off Misery because he's tired of writing misery books. And she's like, oh, I saw it in your bag. Can I read it? And he's like, oh, well, I really only let, like, you know, my publisher and my business partner read it. But I think I can make an exception for someone, you know, who saved my life and is nursing me back to health. And she's like, yay. And she reads it, and then she comes. It's a shot of just in the middle of the night, and he wakes up, and she's just in the room, and it's dark in there, and she's just angry. She's like, you son of a bitch, or whatever she says, because she doesn't swear at all. She's she's a woman of God. And yeah, so she starts making him rewrite a better book. She makes him set it on fire and stuff. Yeah. Which I thought that immediately when she brings the grill in, I was like, maybe do this outside. Maybe wheel him out there.
I was watching some of the scraps fly into the air still on fire and like land on like the curtain and stuff. And I'm like, oh geez, no.
Yeah, they definitely burnt down a set or two.
Yeah, but yeah, that was definitely brutal. Her making him burn that book. Was it that the book that she read was the one where he dies, or was it the last one and the book that he had was something he had personally wrote that he thought was really good that didn't have to do with misery?
No, the one she made him burn is the one where Misery dies giving childbirth. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that was pretty brutal, especially like for some reason in my mind I feel like I remember it being him having written something that wasn't misery related.
It does get a little confusing, I think, personally, because she goes out to the store and comes back with one of his new books. She's like, oh, I'm going to read it cover to cover. And I think what's happening is she's reading the one that just came out and the one he had just written kind of simultaneously.
Okay. Because I thought that was why he cared about it so much when she burned it. I mean, it's the only copy, right? And it's like just the only thing that he's ever... I don't know. Anyways, that is still a very tense scene, though. Like when she makes him burn it, and he's like trying to like plead with her a bit. She's like, "Nah, there's plenty of copies. My publisher's already got a copy. This is not a big deal." And she's like, "Ha ha ha ha, James Scott, I know you better than that. I'm your biggest fan. Remember?
You make one copy because you're superstitious, and then you have one cigarette."
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was very tense.
Also, I was just thinking, again, one of those movies I'm yelling at my TV and I'm in that situation in my head and I'm like, no, you just say this. This is what you got to say. When she's like, oh, we're going to burn the book. I'd just be like, okay, no, I'll rewrite the ending. It's going to be way faster than rewriting a whole book.
Yeah, I mean, it is a neat thing that he kind of figures out by the end, right? By the end, he's able to kind of like talk to her on the insane level. Yeah. A little bit, you know? But yeah, I also like the slow progression of her just like losing her temper a little bit and him being like, she's a little crazy. And then like just slowly being like, oh no, she's like kill me crazy. I gotta get out of here, you know? And yeah, so I don't want to sound like a broken record. I know we said it a lot, but yeah, I was genuinely surprised with how tense it is. I was genuinely surprised with some of the more shocking moments. And again, I think this movie does a really good job of, you know, being sort of like genuinely shocking. Like I really didn't see her re-breaking his feet coming, but that's something that like, you know, it's, I mean, to compare it to Seven, even though it's a wild comparison, it's not like oh, you know, now I'm going to make you cut off a pound of your flesh and you know, because of greed or whatever. It's genuinely like you think he's getting better, you think he's going to leave, and then she's like, no, sorry, you're not going to leave. Yeah. And it's like, oh God.
Yeah, she's basically finding excuses to keep him there longer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I like the lines in the beginning. I mean, you can kind of tell she's lying where she's like, oh yeah, phone lines are down, oh, roads are still whatever. Oh, you know what, well, the phone down at the store works, you know. Or even when he crawls out and she's gone to the length of, you know, tearing her own phone lines out in case he does find a way to escape, you know. Yeah, there's a lot of little details. I mean, even like when he's like trying to use the hairpin in the thing, he's like, "Come on, you've written about it, now do it." You know?
Yeah. I like I like her a lot. I think Kathy Bates kills it. Yes. I love just the unrelenting goody two shoes Christian, no matter what's going on. Like there's that scene where she comes in and she's like in a bathrobe and her hair's down and she's just carrying a gun. And she's just angry with him.
It's not loaded.
it's not loaded.
Maybe I will go get bullets.
He's like, is everything okay? And she's like, just the rain gives me the blues.
Yeah. I also really like there's a little snippet where you see her like in her bed at like 9 p.m. with like Doritos on her lap and like a 2-liter of Coke, and I'm like, oh yeah. Yes. I've spent some time in rural areas, and just like Fargo almost, how they're always in bed together just watching TV.
Yeah.
It's just one of those staples of rural life. That's what my mom and her husband do. As soon as work is over, they get in bed. My stepdad smokes some pot, and they just eat and eat and eat and watch whatever garbage.
Yep.
Whatever garbage. On a side note, also, obviously, it's supposed to be a bit of a metaphor for how Stephen King felt like his fans were treating him in terms of, wanting a certain thing out of him that doesn't line up with what he wants to put out, and yada, yada, yada. And so it kind of becomes that, it's Misery is kind of the original Stan. Eminem's Stan.
Yeah.
So that's fun. I have no more to say about it, but it is, I can't necessarily speak to it, but like I say, I have seen that story told before. It's a sympathetic one. I can understand the frustration of being some sort of creator and wanting to make a certain thing, but then also having to reconcile with the fact that it's going to make a lot of people upset.
Yeah.
And kind of getting to that point where you're like, yeah, it makes me money, but also, do I really want to keep making money? Like, could I financially take the blow for the sake of being happy with what I'm doing?
Yeah.
So, that's neat. That's a neat background, and it's always neat when, that movie works with that metaphor, but also without that metaphor.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? You don't even need that context necessarily. So that's great. And in general, honestly, it kind of gives me a vibe. I've never seen Rear Window, but I have seen a couple of Hitchcock movies, and I assume Rear Window would be the best example because I assume it's a pretty contained story. You're stuck to that one little apartment. I want to say it kind of Hitchcockian a little bit. It kind of feels a little like a Hitchcock movie to me.
Yeah.
But not one of his sprawling, like, North by Northwest adventures. A very contained, small Hitchcock story.
I was reading the director,
Rob Reiner.
Rob Reiner watched a lot of Hitchcock movies before making
Oh, no
this.
kidding.
Yeah. And like I forgot who said, I think it was James Caan, like heard him like yelling at himself, like chastising himself after a scene or something. He's like, who do you think you are, Alfred Hitchcock? Come on, get it together.
That's very funny. James Caan also does a great job. A lot of his wincing and groaning and all that seems very real and agonized. I also like him. I also like Kathy Bates. That's, again, one of the things that is not going to make or break a movie for me necessarily, but, like, you love Hereditary.
I do.
I liked Hereditary. But one of the biggest things about it to me was just like, damn, like, I don't like anybody in this story remotely. Yeah? Not even a little bit.
Love Toni Collette. Love her and everything she's in. Even when she's not supposed to be lovable, just love her.
That's fair. Like I said, I didn't end up resonating with it, and I just always like to take the time out whenever it really, really becomes apparent to me. Like Scream, we mentioned it, and in this movie, just again, I genuinely care about and like these characters.
Yeah.
Even like Kathy Bates, she's still sympathetic enough that like I'm, she's a psycho or whatever, but like there's a point where she's tender to me, right? Like when she says she's got the blues when it's rainy, I'm like, oh, poor Kathy. She's mentally unwell, but she's not. She's not a boogeyman in a closet. She's someone who needs genuine help.
Yeah, up until he gets to the point where he opens a book and she saves pieces of scrap paper where it just is like, I'm a baby murderer.
Yes.
I murdered a bunch of babies.
I absolutely forgot about all that. I got to take it back.
Yeah,
I got to take it way back. I have to take it all back, what I've said. I take it back.
Yeah.
But no, she is characterized enough that she is a bit sympathetic, even after the...
I will say that's...
Up until that point, I guess.
Maybe my biggest problem with the movie is this is probably an hour and 15 minutes in, and she's like broken his legs and stuff, and he finds that a book and he's like, oh no, I'm in trouble. yeah man, we knew something was wrong with this lady.
It's becoming spring now. You've been in trouble for a month or two.
yeah
But yeah, I do like that. I don't know, there's just a great atmosphere to the thing. There's a great sense of passing of time. I could genuinely really, really see myself wanting to revisit this movie every winter time.
Yeah.
It's got a nice wintry atmosphere, and it's got that same thing where like I haven't in the last couple of years, but every Christmas I remember it so fondly. I want to watch Jingle All the Way. The same way that some people treat Die Hard like it's a Christmas movie. I think that's one of those annoying things. It's like a Pickle Rick level. Yeah. Oh, I'm crazy for bacon level fucking joke. I hate when people say it.
The thing that gets me the most about it, or everyone's so adamant about it, like, no, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I have never, ever heard someone say Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It's just people going, no, it is a Christmas movie, and other people going, I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. Who was debating about it being a Christmas movie? I've never seen, like, where were the articles about how, like, hey, okay, all right, what are we getting crazy? We're letting anything fly?
Yeah.
You know, there was never that moment, I don't think. Maybe I'm missing a huge piece of the narrative, but
Yeah, no, the Die Hard Christmas movie thing always makes me mad.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law is one of those guys.
one of my personal things is
Yeah.
I think in my head of LA Confidential as a Christmas movie.
Okay.
Just because it happens during Christmas, so it's got a Christmassy vibe.
Yeah.
So again, during the winter, I think about rewatching it.
Yeah, sure, but it happens during Christmas.
But I would
It's a
never,
Christmas movie.
you know, write like a BuzzFeed article about like
Yeah.
Die Hard's a Christmas movie and here's why, you know.
Yeah, no,
I mean LA Confidential, yeah.
Again, my brother-in-law is one of those guys. I always say what I just said to you. Like, it's people who like Die Hard and think it's a Christmas movie, and other people who don't want to argue with you and don't care. They think you're right, fine, whatever. And then I think it was last Christmas, Conan O'Brien tweeted. He's like, there are two type of people: people who think Die Hard's a Christmas movie, and people who don't give a shit. And I was like, oh man, I'm as funny as Conan O'Brien. That's what that means.
So you loved the sheriff character.
I was just gonna say, we have not talked about my favorite part of this movie.
I also love the sheriff character. I love the
And
dynamic between him and his wife.
Yep.
I love just their laid back, wholesome.
Feels very Twin Peaks to me.
Does absolutely.
Just a sheriff
I
in a
agree with
small
you.
town should be like, it feels
Yeah.
very Fargo to me too. Just
And you know what I love about Twin Peaks and like David Lynch's like weird, surreal, dreamy, you know, picturesque life, but something's off, is that part of that surrealism is almost like an uncanny thing, right? It's familiar, but a little unfamiliar. And so, like, because of that familiarity that it has, this is the dot that I'm going to try to connect. I feel like a lot of the times I'm watching other stuff and just the smallest thing, I'll be like, hey, you know, that makes me think of Twin Peaks, right?
Yeah.
Just because it, you know, it might not be surreal or dreamy, but it just has that little aspect of like, I don't know, just feel like I'm home for a minute, you know?
the way I feel about him is kind of the same way I feel about the police department in Twin Peaks. Is they feel so steeped and a part of this town, but also on the outside of it just a little bit at the same time, where they're like watching it through like a plexiglass plate.
Yes.
And so him just figuring things out and just like being on top of everything all the time, and him coming back to the office with all the books, and his wife's on the phone. She's like, "Hey, you can talk to him now." And he takes the phone. He's like, "Hey Ted, how you doing?" Well, no, if you don't want people sitting on that bench, you shouldn't have put a bench outside your store. No, I'm not gonna come down there and tell him to move.
Yeah.
All right, you have a good rest of your day. Tell Pat I said hi. And I just love that. Cause
Well, it's a moment almost like the moment where he's like, you've written about it, now do it. It's just a little characterization, right? Just
Yeah.
a little taste of who they are, and I love it. I love it too.
yeah, I love you get it from him immediately, like right off the bat when James Caan's publisher calls him. She's like, "Can I speak to the sheriff or the head of the department or whatever the third
Yeah,
one
he's
was?"
like, well, actually, I'm all three. And
He's like, well, which one would you like to talk to? She's like, well, would it matter? He's like, no, because I'm all three.
There's that moment where he clues in, singles in on. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Right after that, when she's like, I'm sorry, is any of this even making sense? And he's like, well, I'm not sure there's much we can do, but I will take all this information for you, and it's running through the system right now. And he just takes a sticky note with that guy's name on it and puts it on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
That's
it.
his system, I guess. But there's that moment where he clues into it being Kathy Bates, basically.
Yeah.
She just get out of the car and she goes, oh, cock-a-doodie or something like that. And I was like, watch that be something Misery says all the time or something. Because he's been reading diligently.
Yep,
That's part of his police work is just, I'm going to crack open these 12 books and
Yep.
read them all. And I love that. I love that he takes his time. It did not turn out that that's a saying in the book. Instead, it was just, oh, hey, isn't that girl who killed a bunch of babies? And so
No.
he goes and looks it up.
He goes and looks
and
it
he
up.
finds
and
the quote.
he finds a quote that he's really taken by in the book. I don't remember what it is.
Something to the effect of like, your mortal courtrooms will not judge me the way that the Most High will.
Oh,
I can't remember verbatim what it is,
Yeah.
but it's something like that.
It
right?
is
Yeah.
only God can judge me, basically.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. It's a live, laugh, love, basically.
Basically.
Yeah. It's no regrets, basically.
And you said you wanted to talk about the pills?
Oh, yeah, pills. Were those just supposed to be kind of sort of sedatives, I suppose?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they were like just they're
Not heavy, just a little bit, just to keep them a little...
little loopy so he doesn't
Yeah.
feel the pain.
Mhm.
Have you
Oh,
ever-
yeah, well, I guess they must also have been for the pain for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, because there's a point where he's like, man, should I keep taking these? And then my mind just went off on like, well, shit, what is she giving him? But yeah, you're right. It's probably just actually pain stuff. And he did a certain point. He was like, I don't need to keep being out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever taken anything like that for like an injury?
Mm-mm.
I have. I got when I got my wisdom teeth taken out, and the way they work are, they make you loopy and they make you high, but you're still in pain. You still feel it, but you're so stoned you just don't care. And like people are like, how do you feel? And you're like, you know what? Honestly, I feel great. It doesn't even matter.
I do love taking Dayquil and staying up though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't do it when I'm not sick.
Okay.
But when I'm sick, it's one of those things where I'm like, damn, I basically suffocating, can't breathe, but I don't know. I feel a little funny.
Fun
There's something about the sleepy aspect of Dayquil or NyQuil. NyQuil specifically. I might have said Dayquil. Dayquil doesn't have the same effect. NyQuil does.
Yeah.
Because I think it's got that little sleep stuff in it.
Like, oh man, I'm real sick and I feel like shit, but I get to have a little treat.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna start taking this shit during the day.
Oh, fun fact about Chris. It's more my aside, my favorite workaholics jokes. I think it's the first episode they have to do the drug test, and they don't know how they're going to pass it. So at the end of the episode, one of them just pees in all of the cups, and so the guy doing the drug test gets fired, and the boss is yelling at him. You listen off all the drugs found in like one person's pee, and she's like, methanol, Xanax, Dayquil, NyQuil. Why would anyone take both?
Yes, I'm familiar with that because it's one of those weird things that, like, even though I'm only really familiar with like the first 2 seasons of the show, I didn't keep up with it. I know you're a bigger fan, but for some reason that's one of those jokes that just always sticks with me. Another example is, again, just being like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever, and
15, 16,
watching
17.
Family Guy, and there's that joke where he's like, I didn't even have gas until I was like 30. And it just hard cuts to him sitting there and he's reading and he farts and he's like, what the hell was that? And for some reason, I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
Think about that joke. I think about the Dayquil, NyQuil joke. Never left my mind. Same thing with the Hatchet, the book. I've just every day of my life for some reason, I've thought about the fact that he's sitting in the cockpit with the pilot, and he's like, God damn, this guy's got farts. And then the guy's like, no, my arm, it kind of hurts. And then like a little while later in the book, he's like, oh, I'm having a heart attack. And then you're like, oh God, those are the signs, and they are. And I just think about it every day for some reason. So there's 3 things that never leave my mind. They say you have like 5,000 thoughts a day or something. At least there's 3 of them.
3 of them are taken up every day by those things.
Yeah.
Imagine what you could accomplish if those were free to you.
I wish most of them weren't about Morrowind, a game that I've never played. Anyways, I'm going to say hard B plus A, but I'm not saying I'm done talking about it necessarily. I'm just saying I was trying to think, and I think I'm going to say probably A at the end of this.
Yeah, we're just on the same page today. Yeah, I'd give Misery a solid A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you're thinking about bringing up? Like I said, I'm sure there's plenty more I could talk about, especially as I go on to watch it, 2-3 times. Perhaps there could even be a stage of this podcast where, a couple of years down the line, we rewatch some things.
Yeah.
And not saying everything's going to get that treatment, but who knows? Maybe we, watch Misery and something's different, and it's worth talking about. But
I will say my only real problem with it maybe is I think the end. If I had to find a problem, I'd say the ending is a little too clean. Wraps up a little bit too nicely.
Yeah, he just kind of fights her, and then he writes his book, and it ends up being a smash hit. I feel like perhaps it'd be a better ending if it was a little clear that, like, yes, it was good for him, but it didn't pan out great, because it sounds like he gets to have his cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah.
Like, because she's like, aren't you happy? And he's like, absolutely, I wrote the book for myself, or whatever he says. And he's like, well, she's like, well, the critics love it, and I think your fans are going to like it too and stuff, and it just sounds like it went a little too perfectly. It'd be nice if maybe over dinner they were like, well, critics love it, but it's not going to make you anything. And he's like, no, that's okay. And you could get enough out of the that's okay, where you're like, oh, because it was for him. Yeah. Because it was for him.
If I had my cake and could eat it too, I think the movie would end in the house after.
Yeah, probably just him getting away. Yeah.
Yeah. I have nothing much more to say about it. I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, I was trying to think, and I think that wraps it up good. Good movie. Watch it. 7. Watch it, but maybe if you're in the mood for something like The Crow. I would call 7 something like The Crow.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little better, perhaps. A little more refined, palatable, something people might actually say has more value than The Crow. But at the end of the day, that's pretty much more like The Crow than anything else.
If you feel like being just dirty 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I was like, is Trent Reznor doing this soundtrack?
Might be.
No, it's someone else. I looked at the credit. But even during the opening, I was like, is this a Nine Inch Nails song?
He does most of David Fincher's movies, yeah.
Well, that's why I was primed already to begin with. But yeah, I looked at the music by list, and it's something like Robert Graham or something. I can't remember what it was.
If I'm being honest, I cannot name a Nine Inch Nails song that isn't also a Johnny Cash song.
Yeah. Yeah, I like some of the industrial sounds. Because I know that industrial's had an influence on a lot of like records over the last couple of years that I like and stuff. But there's something about it that's really like, just uncomfortable.
And isn't Nine Inch Nails a reference to the nails that were put in Jesus' hands?
Probably.
That's a fart noise for Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, well, maybe this podcast should have ended in the house.
You're not wrong.
Maybe we're at the restaurant scene portion of this.
We gotta hallucinate. We gotta hallucinate Kathy Bates coming at us, so it's not mind-numbing.
I actually like that little touch.
I don't.
I thought that was neat.
Do not.
No?
No.
It's like a neat little PTSD thing where he's like, nah, but I see her everywhere.
If it was a woman that looked like her, I might have liked it better, but that it's her and then coming up to him as a woman that looks nothing like her and goes, I'm your biggest fan.
Well, no, I like that because that plays into the metaphor of like, right, like Stephen King and his fans, right?
Yeah.
And so it extends it out to like, no, it's not just Kathy Bates. They're all Kathy Bates, right? Which is, I mean, not all, but there are more, right?
Yeah.
But whatever. You're right. I mean, don't want to take it away from you. Anyways, that's that. Mattress Man.
Is that me? Am I Mattress Man?
It's a reference to one of my favorite movies.
What is it?
Oh, Punch Drunk Love.
Oh, still gotta watch that.
Yeah. So that's that, Mattress Man.
That's that, Mattress Man. I was trying to think of one from one of my favorite movies, but I can't think of a good...
It's going to be my new sign-off.
All right, that's that, Mattress Man.
That's that, Mattress Man. You can't take mine.
That's that, Mattress Man.
If you need more soup, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to our website, eatingsoupalone.com. And until next time,